Hey, Elena, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey there, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were just talking offline a bit, kind of like half the podcast, so that we have to revisit
Yeah,
everything. It's going to be a good one. I'm really excited to have you on the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
of course. Yeah, I'm excited too. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, awesome. So we are in kind of like a quarantine situation right now at the time of making this podcast, but you're still actively going to work, doing what you do best. So, Elena, for the people that don't know who you are, can you just give us like a brief overview introduction?
Yeah, so I am a morning news person here in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the NBC affiliate. So I'm still going to work every day. I'm waking up at 2:15 in the morning, get to work by 3:30 a.m. And so stay at home order doesn't really apply to me right now. I'm heading out every day, Monday through Friday. Certified yoga instructor on the side. I am also on the board of directors for Make-A-Wish Foundation. Few years back, I was actually granted a wish. I was more like 10 years back. I was granted a wish, and since then, it's been one of these organizations that I hold so near and dear to my heart. So it's an absolute honor to be on the board here in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, which is actually the largest branch in the country. So I'm on the board for that. I like to do public speaking and share my story, which we'll get into that in a little bit. And I'm also yeah, I just launched my YouTube channel last week during the quarantine, during the extra free time that I have after work. So, uh, pretty exciting stuff going
Yeah,
on
lots
here.
of stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, and I love your attitude. You seem like a really really positive person. You
Thank
have a lot
you.
going on, wearing a lot of hats right now, and I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. And a lot of the listeners that are listening right now are wanting to learn how to wear multiple hats. Maybe they're
Hmm.
doing something right now that they're not enjoying, or they want to
Right.
get out of, or they've always wanted to do something, but they never took that step. They never took that leap into actually doing it. So
Yeah,
lots to talk about. But I do want to revisit what you just said just a minute ago. So you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I do. I do. I wake up at 2:15 every morning.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really weird. So I'm a big person with mantras, okay? As I mentioned, a yoga instruction. So I really believe in mantras and affirmations, and every morning when I wake up, and this is going to sound like a Looney Tune, I say, "Great day, great day. Today's going to be a great day." And I say it just like that, like
Yeah.
out loud. And Chris, who's my boyfriend who lives with me, poor guy, he has to hear it every morning. But yeah, 2 a.m. sets the tone for the day, gets me off and running. So yeah, I love it. I'm a morning person and a night owl, I guess
Yeah.
you could say, like
So
Michael Scott.
what time do you have to go to sleep to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and have energy?
Oh man. I should be going to bed a lot earlier than I do go to bed. When I started with this shift, I would say I went to bed around 7 o'clock. And it just kind of gets pushed back and pushed back. Yeah, I can stay up later. I'll be fine. Lately, I've been going to bed 8:45, 9 o'clock, and I've been fine with that, honestly. But I do nap, so that kind of adds it in. So I would say go to bed 9, wake up 2:15 or so, and then take a 2 hour nap.
Mm,
So I kind of get 7 hours in there, do the split sleeping, which
right.
works for me. But for other people, they got to do it all at once. So yeah.
So some nights I'm going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're just
I
waking up.
Yeah, and I have friends over on the West Coast, and I'll be waking up at 2 a.m. They're still up from the day before, so it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, you're
Yeah, but
definitely
I mean,
Go ahead. Go
you
ahead.
never know. You have to do it. You don't think you can do it until you actually have to do it, and when you do have to do it, you're like, oh, this isn't bad.
Yeah. Well, so years ago, I took a job
Yeah.
working at a hotel restaurant doing the breakfast buffet,
Oh yeah.
and the job lasted one day because
Oh wow.
I found out I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to
Yeah.
work at 4 and be ready for breakfast at 5. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this. This shift's not for me. But no, that's
Yeah.
super awesome. What time do you actually get on air?
We get on air at 4:30 in the morning. So I have to be at work by 3:30. And I'm a nerd and I'm always one of those that says, you got to get there at least 10, 15 minutes before. So I'm at work by 3:20 every morning for my 3:30 a.m. shift for the show to start at 4:30.
Got to bring us the news, right?
Yeah, got to do it. News doesn't die.
That's right. That's right. So is media broadcasting something you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, so in kindergarten, I got the Curious George Award. I've always asked a ton of questions, and I still continue to ask questions. It's only gotten worse from there. So I went into the right field for that. But growing up, I would watch the news with my parents, and one of the local newscasters here, I just loved her. Her name's Cammie Dirking, and ironically, my freshman year roommate was her daughter. So it's like the universe was just working in our favor here, that my roommate happened to be her daughter. So I got connected with her, and got to continue my dream. Like when I was in college at OU, Ohio University, I went to school for broadcast journalism, which the Scripps School of Journalism at OU is one of the best schools in the country. Which many people don't realize because it's typically known as a party school at OU for their Halloween party. But yeah. And so, I mean, since then it's just grown and grown. And I was the anchor at WOUB, which was our newscast at school. And during college, I got an internship at Local 12, which was the station that Cammie was at. And so she helped me get an internship there, just kind of pulled some strings, and I loved it. And when I was there, I was like, I know this is what I want to be doing. And then I ended up getting an internship at CNN. So I took off for a semester and lived in New York City and worked for the AC 360 show, which was very cool. And that was during the, I think, Obama and Romney election time. So it was a very exciting time to be working at CNN. And it's just continued to grow since there. But then once I graduated from college, you got to once you get these internships and you think, oh yeah, I'm doing great. I'm at the top, whatever. But then you have to start in this small market. So I started off in Rochester, Minnesota. That was my first job. And it's actually known for the Mayo Clinic. So I did a lot of Mayo Clinic stories, medical related stories there. But it's also a lot of farming. So one of the funniest stories, this might not be appropriate, but it's the most memorable story I've ever covered. This farm in a town called Lisle, Minnesota, $30,000 worth of bull sperm was stolen. And so that was the most memorable story I've ever done. Apparently there's a black market for bull sperm. And,
really? Wow.
Yes.
What the heck?
Wait, I could just go on for hours. First of all,
okay. $30,000 for bull sperm. Are these
right?
breeders stealing bull sperm to?
Yeah, wow. And so that was the most memorable story I've covered. And I mean,
how does one steal bull sperm?
So they sperm, kind of like milk. You sperm them. I don't know. You sperm them is that I use, but it was in a jar, jars, and somebody stole it all.
Interesting.
And so good times for sure. But I've loved journalism, and I just continued to push through the hard times of Rochester, Minnesota. Then I moved on to Indianapolis, which was my second job, and now it's always been on my bucket list to do the news in my hometown, and Cincinnati is my hometown, so. Check it off. Awesome. So this is my third job in the business. Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's kind of my news story.
So you've been at it for a long time, right?
This is my fifth year. Yeah.
5th year. So you've put time in. 5th year broadcasting or 5th year school and everything, and now and
5th year broadcasting. So graduated, right? So and then school, in the
exactly. Mm-hmm. So you put in years into doing this, into doing what you've wanted to do. And I think that's really important for the listeners out there that haven't gotten started doing what they've wanted to do, or following their dream path, dream career, is to understand that it takes time, right? You got to put the work in. You know,
Yeah.
you said something. You said you were doing an internship, right? I mean, that's like getting your feet wet, getting your foot in the door.
Absolutely. I think internships while you're still in college, that is key because I mean they don't really look at your grades. I don't think employers really look at your grades. I don't know. I'm not an employer, so I don't know, but I think they look more at your hands-on experience more so and then your talent on air. You have to do a demo reel if you are interested in going into the news business, and you send those out. And I think they really look at that, like your presence on camera, and then also your experience that you've had
Yeah,
throughout your college. Yeah.
it's a. I mean, I'm not really one to watch too much of the news, but with
Yeah.
everything that's going on, I've been watching a little more than usual.
Yeah.
And it seems like a really exciting career for some reason. Like I always see
It is.
CNN, like the back room. It's like hustling, bustling, getting the
Yeah.
stories. Field reporters out there doing what they do. Like, just seems like an
hmm
exciting, world to be in.
It is very exciting and it's different every day. I mean, right now, obviously, a lot of our stories are focused on the coronavirus, but it's something different every day. Like the other day, I did a story on a woman who started. She's an author, but she also has an immune system deficiency, and she started a text messaging service that sends out inspirational text messages every morning to people. And now she has over 1,000 subscribers to the service. And then I did a story on what domestic violence shelters are doing now because with the social distancing and the stay-at-home order, obviously if all these people are in a shelter, they can't be together. So what they're doing with that, and then like mask making story, it just there's so many
Something
different
new.
avenues,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
something new every day. Yeah.
What would you say your favorite part about media broadcasting? What's your favorite part of that?
Sharing stories with the community because I'm very much one that likes to do uplifting stories. My favorite types of stories are like if there is a sick person and they're overcoming this obstacle, and they're able to overcome this test that's come their way. I love to share those stories and the ones that tug on your heart, and
Mm,
being able to tell people about this person who is going through these struggles and how they're overcoming it. I just love those types of stories. So that's my
the
sharing
feel
with the
good
community and
stuff.
all the people that you meet.
I like it.
Really cool.
What would be your least favorite part?
Um, the probably the not norm, the unnorm. I don't even know what the not normalcy of it. I guess because like you have to have your phone ready. At all hours, especially with this type of coronavirus stuff that's going around. You could be called in at any moment to go into work. So you always have to be on your game. Um, in fact, no matter where you go, you kind of always have to be ready for action.
Mm.
And at a moment's notice, you could be called in, and so that's like my least favorite part, especially during months that there are periods called sweeps periods where you're not allowed to take off at all. And I think every newsroom, every news person can say they're not a fan of sweeps because yes, it does help you like see where your stance is as a station um, in the market that you're in, but like you can't take vacations in February, May, July, and November because of sweeps. So that kind
Mm.
of puts a damper on any vacations you might have with people. But I mean, I wouldn't say there's really anything I hate about it by any means. I there's
Right.
I like the news a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course. 'Cause, I mean, it is your dream. It
Yeah,
has been your dream career. I would hope that you enjoy
definitely.
every aspect. But we all have our ups and downs when it
Oh,
comes to
for
things,
sure.
and
Yeah.
you know, things that trigger us at times, and
hmm
So, what would you tell somebody if there was a listener out there that wanted to get into media broadcasting, wanted to follow the path that you followed? Like, what are some
hmm
tips that you would give that person?
I would say, even on your hardest days, don't give up because when you start, unless you are very, very talented and happen to luck out when a larger market that might have an opening and be willing to take a chance on somebody just out of college, oftentimes you do have to start in those smaller markets and it's very little pay. A lot of hard work. Oftentimes you have to shoot your own video and then edit that video together yourself and then deliver that video and that story that you wrote all in a day.
Mm.
So um, yes, there will be days that you just kind of think, oh man, like, why am I doing this? But then once you pass that and you get past it and move up in your levels, and it's just very rewarding. You just kind of think, man, I did that. I'm grateful that I stuck with it and have achieved this goal of mine.
You know, a lot of people, when they're working towards a goal, end up quitting. They
Hmm.
throw in the towel, right? They're
Yeah.
like, this isn't for me. This isn't working. I shouldn't be doing this, like you said. Like, did you ever have those moments where you felt discouraged and you just didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, or?
Yeah, I would say I had them often. My very first market, Rochester. Um, so I was there for 2 years, and for the first half year, I was actually in our bureau location, which was Austin, Minnesota, and I had so like I didn't work with anybody. It was just me all day long in this tiny little closet size of a room. And my very first week on the job, this room was located in a radio station. My very first week on the job, I lost the key, or excuse me, I left the key inside and then had to climb over the wall because the wall like didn't go all the way up to the ceiling. It was just kind of like one of those like fake like separators. I had to climb over it back down to get the key to get into my office. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is the worst. I started like, and then I was like, it could be a lot worse. I got this. Like, but but yeah, I think, and if even if you do something that you think is your dream and you want to throw in the towel, maybe it really isn't your dream, and that just means that there's a better calling out there for you. So if you do give up on something that you thought was your dream, I think you do have to hand it to yourself for at least giving it a try.
Mm.
Because I know people say, and oh, you're a quitter, but maybe it's not that you're a quitter, and maybe it's more so that, yeah, this really isn't right for me and I'm meant to do something else. So you can also look at it that way as well. So maybe it's not necessarily that person's calling.
Right. It's almost like you have to go after it to realize that, it's not for you, or
Right.
maybe.
So you don't wonder the what ifs type of
Exactly.
thing. Hmm.
Do you think people should do what they're passionate about, or do you think people should do what makes them the most money so that they can do what they're passionate about on the side?
I think you should do what you're passionate about, and ultimately the money will come to follow. Um, I mean, if you really are strapped for cash and you have a family that you need to provide for, maybe do get a side job that gives you a little bit of a stream of an income. But it doesn't need to be anything that you're like breaking your back over. But it does allow you that, security to be able to feed your family. But I am a firm believer that, you know, if you do follow your passion and you stick with it and you follow it, eventually that the money will come. That's always been one of the things that I've
So,
said.
what if you don't know what your passion is? Like, what if
Oh,
you. I used to struggle with that a lot.
yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm passionate. Like, I enjoy playing video games. So I'm in real
Hmm.
estate, right? I'm like
Okay.
full blown business, like, you know, renovating
Yeah.
properties, rentals, the whole nine yards. But I'm not necessarily passionate about that, if I'm honest with you. Like, I look
Yeah.
at a house and I see a check, I see profit. Well, hopefully, I would see profit. I'm passionate about playing video games,
Yeah.
uh, watching stuff, like
You
the.
should be in esports
Yeah.
then.
So, okay, I'm glad you said that, because I think I'm gonna take it up as like a side hobby and see how I
My
do.
cousin's in esports.
Yeah, because I love that whole world.
San Diego, something. He's like they like won the world. I'm not really into it, so I don't know the terminology, but his name is Moth, and they just won the world thing. I don't know of esports, so
Yeah,
it's really
it's a
profitable.
big, it's a big, big business. Big, actually in Vegas, at the Luxor, they
Oh yeah,
have an esports arena, and it looks like a stadium. It's insane. They're like movie theater size screens all over the place.
I
And
you know is that's the building that's like a pyramid, right?
yes,
That's
yes,
yes, I've seen that.
yeah. It's unbelievable. Computers everywhere. thousands of them, and you can just go in there and play, and they do these huge tournaments. But I mean, yeah. So for somebody out there like me that doesn't know what we're passionate about, like for you, you got started early. You know, media broadcasting was something that you wanted to get into. You knew what you wanted to do. What would you tell that person that doesn't know what they're passionate about?
And you know, honestly, like I think what you're passionate about can change as well, because through time, like I found myself loving yoga, and I found myself loving public speaking, and I think I might be more passionate about those things more so. But the key is to find something that you love doing, but it doesn't feel like work. So I mean, like you're passionate about video games, or if somebody likes pro wrestling. I say that because my boyfriend has a wrestling YouTube channel.
For our YouTube
this is
watchers
his,
here, we have a display
like all
of
we
belts.
do, yes. So a big wrestling display behind me. This is usually where he does his interviews. And he's turned that into his little niche. So just something that you love doing. Anything can, you can be passionate about knitting and make that some sort of income. Make an Etsy shop or something. I think anything can be profitable as long as you think outside of the box.
I think it's important, really, really important, because if you don't do what you enjoy doing, life is just going to be miserable. It's not going to be
There's
fun,
no point.
right? You have to enjoy what you're actually doing. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So this is a quote my mom always said: if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
I like it. Yeah, I used to serve tables.
Okay.
And I hated it. Oh my goodness. I hated every day going into work so much that it would make me sick. And I promised myself, that's actually why I got into be in my own business, because I couldn't stomach it anymore. And there's a lot of people that go through that. It's unfortunate, because I believe that nobody should do something that they hate.
Right. To back off that, I was a bartender in college. And I would dread going in. At first, I loved it. At first I was like, yeah, this is great. This is thrilling. But then after a while, like all the drunk people hounding you, it just got to be so much. I got burnt out. And there were even some days I would be like, man, I hope like I accidentally cut my finger when I'm cutting this lemon so I can leave work. Like,
I can relate. Whoops. I can relate. The one thing I will say about bartending is sometimes, especially when you're in the college ages, leaving at 2 a.m. and looking at all the money you just made. I mean, that right there, because it's the cash business. Making like 200,
I mean, actually, it's good at any age. Like, if you can deal with it, great for you. But I could not put up with it. So bartenders out there, awesome. More power to you. I will respect you when I'm at the bar, because I know how it goes.
We know what it's like to work in service.
I'll tip you well.
Right? Exactly. So I want to talk about the juicy stuff, right? Because you have a very unique story. And we're going to link your YouTube and Instagram in the show notes. So all the listeners out there, make sure that you go and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Because you have a new video coming that's going to be talking about a time in your life that is just, whoa.
Yes.
So you actually died.
I died. I did. Yeah. I was legally dead. And spoiler alert, I made it through. Here I am.
I'm very, very happy that you made it through. That's just wow. Okay. Do you mind sharing with us?
Yeah, I'm very open about it, because it's honestly shaped me into the person that I am today, and it's helped me get this positive mindset and this go-getter attitude that I have. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory before all of this happened. So I was a senior in high school, and I woke up at 4:00 in the morning every day and would run before school like a Looney Tune. And so I'd wake up, I'd run, go to school, run after school. I would say I had a lot of body image issues. I was obsessed with exercise. I was nervous. Oh, if I don't exercise today, what am I going to look like? Like, am I going to gain weight? Those types of things. And I knew I was wearing myself down. I wouldn't go on family vacations because it would get in the way of this running world that I'd put myself in. I started stopping hanging out with friends. Like, it got in the way of social activities. And I knew that I had to make some changes, but I didn't know how to make those changes. And frankly, I don't know if I even would have been willing to do it if I didn't have what happened to me really kind of kick me in the butt and just give me a lesson. Um, so I went to school. It was September 8th. I went to school like any normal day and I woke up and did my crazy girl run, then went to school, ran again, visited my grandma at her nursing home. And my dad went with me as well. And when I was there, it felt like my insides were on fire. I've never felt a pain so extreme and intense in my life. Like, my insides felt like they were just burning. And I thought maybe, I was hungry. So when we left, I had my dad take me to Panera, which was one of my favorite places to hang out in high school. And when I was there, I was like, oh, maybe I have to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and he was waiting for the orders. And I remember kind of just falling to the ground. And the ground was so cold and I was so hot because I was just so like sweaty and felt so sick that I was just laying on the ground. And like, I remember feeling the cold tile against my face and thinking, wow, this feels great. And if you know me, you know I'm a huge germaphobe. So that's enough in itself right there. But I was taking forever. So my dad came in and, checked on me and found me on the ground. And he called an ambulance who they said, you can either drive her to the ER or you can have us take her. And then a whole series of events that I'm not going to get into right now happened. But hours went by, and I remember I was in my bed later on, still in this agonizing pain, and I looked out at the moon, and I remember thinking, like, I was in my bedroom looking out at I just remember how big and bright it was. I think it was a full moon that night. And I was like, man, just let me die right now because I was in so much pain. And I got up again to go to the bathroom. And this time I passed out and I must have hit the vanity and like made a noise because my dad found me and my pulse was racing. So he called 911 and they rushed me to the hospital. And I remember this part very vividly and it just sticks out. I don't know if EMTs aren't allowed to hold people's hands or what, but I just remember being in so much pain. I went to hold one of the people in the back of the ambulance with me, his hand, and he pulled it away. And I remember thinking, wow, this is so mean. Like, I like want to hold your hand. I hurt so bad right now, but he pulled it away. And that part just stands out big time. But we got to the ER and my mom was there. My parents are divorced. And I was a little confused why she was there too, but my dad had called her and I thought, maybe I had to pee really bad. And we later learned through all of the testing and stuff that my bladder is smaller than a normal human, which explains why I always have to pee. But that has nothing to do with what happened. But so she took me to the bathroom and she kind of had to like hold me into the bathroom. So I'm like a senior in high school and my mom is taking me to go pee, like very humbling, obviously. And she says that I was just thrashing about and all of a sudden I went limp. And since she was holding me, we obviously weren't able to lock the door. And at that moment, a nurse came in with a urine cup and said, oh, I forgot to tell you, we need a urine sample. And the nurse, my mom was like, I think she's dead. And the nurse looked at me and called a double code because I was indeed dead. I'd gone into respiratory arrest. And so they double code called, wheeled in a stretcher, took me away, and I had a death experience. I don't know if you want me to share that. I'll share it. So I was walking down a beach with this figure in white that was next to me, and I don't know if it was Jesus, but it was a man, And we just kept walking down the beach together towards this big bright light. There was a big bright light. And at the end of the beach, and at the end of this light, there was a gateway. And my great aunt, who was my favorite person, was behind the gateway. And she had her arms outstretched and she said, "Come to me, baby." And I remember just thinking, yeah, this is it. I'm so excited. I get to be with my aunt. Her name was Aunt Fedora, but I called her Dodo. I was like, I get to be with Aunt Dodo again. So I pushed open the door, and the figure next to me said, "Stop, it's not your time now." And I woke up. And when I woke up, there were doctors, healthcare workers all around me. And I remember at the back of the room seeing my parents just standing there crying. And I was like, why are they crying? And at this point, I didn't realize that I had actually died. I just thought I was just kind of like going through this like weird dream type thing. And I looked over to my right and asked the doctor next to me, I said, "Am I going to die?" And then the doctor was like, "We're just going to do the best that we can." And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, this is not good. And like all these thoughts kept running through my head. I thought of all the things that I hadn't done. I thought of all the things that, I hadn't experienced, that because I'd put myself in this little like caged up box of a life. And I thought of how I'd never gone skydiving. I thought of how I'd never get married. And at that moment, I vowed to myself that if I make it through here, I'm going to make sure everything that I want to achieve in my life happens. And I said, just let me make it through, and I'm going to make all these changes that I need to change. And I'm just going to be a completely different person. And they wheeled me back for emergency surgery. And it turned out my intestines had been twisting the entire time. And I had died of sepsis. And they had to take out 15 feet of my small intestine. And like what they took out all crumbled in the doctor's hands because they were so dead from twisting all those hours. And I had an ostomy bag for about 4 months. I'm not sure if you know what that is. Do you know what an ostomy bag is?
I don't.
Okay, so a lot of people don't. It's when the tip of they take your intestine, and instead of going to the bathroom out of your butt, they
Yes.
stick it out into a bag, and
Right.
you relieve yourself into a bag. So I had to have that while I was healing, and that thing was awful. So I feel for anybody that has one. Like you'll be walking around and it'll just break all over you, spilling everything. Just a very humbling experience. And I couldn't eat or drink anything, so I had IV nutrition in a port. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
right here, like yeah,
Yeah. I see the scar.
in here. And so that put me into liver failure because TPN and lipids are super hard on your liver. And fun fact, polar bear bile pills help regenerate the liver. So that's what I took, and it ended up fixing my liver, which was good. But yeah, so I was told that I might have an ostomy bag the rest of my life, that I'd never be able to eat anymore the rest of my life. But I would visualize my intestines healing every night, and my mom would as well. My mom was my sidekick through it all. We would just visualize my intestines healing and the cilia inside growing back, and I would say, "Thank you so much for letting my intestines heal and letting me get this ostomy bag takedown. Thank you for letting them heal and absorb nutrition so I can eat again." And lo and behold, here I am about 10 years later, and I'm eating. I do have a little bit of a restricted diet. I can't eat sweets and or fried foods, but I'm still I'm eating, and I don't have an ostomy bag. So I think visualization is huge. She would hold a pendulum actually over my stomach and just like visualize with the pendulum swinging it around. But yeah, so since then, I have made it my vow to live each day as if it's my last, because who knows, it could be your last. And, if somebody tells you the odds, don't listen to it. You can overcome anything that somebody tells you you can't do. And there's no such thing as odds, really. There's no such thing as limits. It's all mental. If you put your mind to it and you just keep working at it and visualizing, you can make it happen if you do put in those efforts. And so I've always, as I mentioned before, my bucket list of being in the news in Cincinnati, checked that off. And so yeah, here I am now. And I think it's very important that people recognize that no matter where you are in life, it's okay to continue to grow and evolve and maybe change direction no matter what career path you're in. Because I have been liking to do these like speaking things on the side, and teaching yoga as well. So, there's no set path and there's no rules. So if you are in, doing something and you realize, hey, I don't want to be doing this, just, put in the efforts and kind of make what it is that you want to do happen.
Wow. Alanna, that was probably one of the most intense stories I've ever heard. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for opening up, on the show about your past experiences. That holy smokes. When you said that you had, when you found out that your intestines became twisted, I actually have a friend, his name's Dominic, and the same thing happened to him.
Really?
He never shared with me like he has a scar from here to like his belly button where they had to take.
Yeah, I'm happy to show my scar if you want. I don't know if you don't want to show that on your. Okay, here, let's see.
Yep, same thing. Wow.
There was the ostomy bag right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that for the audio listeners, make sure to check out the YouTube video to see.
Yeah, that'll be released. I'm sure by the time this is out, it'll be out. So
yeah. Wow. So a few follow-up questions for you. Number one, did this just happen, or was this okay? So this can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anyone, but it's you're more likely to be struck by lightning than have it happen.
It's rare,
and it happens to more so older people, like the elderly, whose intestines are more supple, like they're elastic, I guess, versus someone who's a senior in high school. So it was very rare for it to happen to someone my age, and I think they actually put it in a medical book. My case, at least. Yeah.
Wow. Second follow-up question is, how long from your time in the hospital did it take you to recover, like to get back to full normal life?
Yeah, so I mean, every now and then I still have issues still to this day. Like, what's the date today? April 7th. Just last month I had a blip and ended up in the emergency room. But for the most part, it's very rare that it will happen. I would say from the hospital to being back to school my senior year, let's see, September, October, November, December, January, February. It was about 6-7 months. I went to school like a month, I think, of my senior year of high school. So yeah,
that must have
so that was like the full.
Been rough,
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. I'm sure that experience for you really made you not take things for granted. So many times, like even with everything that's going on with coronavirus and, people just take things for granted. Like, I'm a big advocate for live every day like it's your last day. Time is not infinite. And so many people, Alanna, live as if they get two lives, right? Like, this one is just like a rehearsal. And they're going to get another one. And that's just not true, right? I mean, you're here right now. Tomorrow's never promised. You need to enjoy your time here.
Yeah, and if this wouldn't have happened to me, my dress rehearsal, which I as you just said, up into my senior year, that would not have been a life at all. I can guarantee on my deathbed, whenever that may be, like in the future, I would have looked back if I continued that pathway and thought, man, like, what did I do with my life? Like, I didn't do it. Like, I lived such a life of mediocrity and repetition. And I think that it's really key for people to, even if you are in kind of in that mindset, like, oh, what if this happens? Like, do something every day, at least like for a little bit, that makes you happy, because you never know. You could really keel over like in the next 5 minutes, really, for all we know.
Why do
Because
you
I had no
think?
idea.
Yeah, why do you think people never think it can be them? Like,
I
especially with
think,
this whole virus thing, like there's still people
hmm
congregating, and it's like,
yeah.
why do you think? Why do you think some people just act as if they're invincible?
Honestly, I don't have the answer for that. I don't know. I just think, you know, I think because it happened to me, I know that anything can happen. So I don't really know why other people think that way. Um, but like you said, the invincible, people just think they're invincible and like, you can scoot on by.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that success loves preparation. Right. Like
hmm
when you're prepared, you're organized, you put in the work, success
hmm
just comes to you. It loves that, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just, even with the whole pandemic that's going on, like they're getting smacked up right now and with the realization that they have not been prepared for something
Right.
like this, like financially, right? Medically, like whatever, aspect. A lot of people just live their lives as carefree and not prepared. Like they just,
Yeah.
and I wish more people would be prepared for something, if knock on wood that thing ever does happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's, there is something good about being carefree in general when it comes to life, just kind of living for the moment. But when it comes to something like this, it's also important that you do take those needed steps to prepare because you just never know, especially with something that, that shows asymptomatic in some
Mm,
people. Like for all we know, maybe you and I have it and we just aren't showing it. But if we do happen to go to the grocery store and get what we need, we could be passing it on to somebody else who is more vulnerable. And I think people just need to, yes, it's okay to be a free spirit and enjoy life and whatnot, but also like when it does come to these serious matters of life and death, it should be taken seriously.
absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't make that change until
hmm
it's too late or until something happens. Right now with
Me,
everything, yeah, like so
me for
financially,
sure.
in what
Yeah.
in what aspect?
Oh, like I don't know if I would have changed my ways of, being obsessed with
Yeah.
running and living like brr, 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 if that wouldn't have happened to me. So I'm a good example of it
Yeah.
for sure.
So I also believe that, we can learn from other people, right? Like we can
hmm
learn, like hearing your story. I think today I might do a handstand or something just to do it because I never
You
did
can
a
do
hand.
it. I
You know what I
believe in
mean? Like, but like financially speaking, right? So many people right now, we're not prepared for
Yeah.
something like this to happen, and now they're freaking out. They're panicking because hey, well, half the country's closed and they can't go to
hmm
work tomorrow, and now they're potentially going to lose a lot of the things that they worked for. And well, if for the last year you were saving a little bit instead of going out every Friday night or spending that
Right.
$5,000 on that vacation, you may have been okay. So I like to live my life a few months out. I love being spontaneous. I'll get on a plane tomorrow
Yeah.
and fly to China or Russia. I love being spontaneous, but I also recognize that I need to be prepared for myself and for my family.
Yeah.
If in the next 2 months, I need to do something, I need to do this, I need to do that. I'm prepared. I'm set up for success. Right? How do you feel about
Yeah.
that?
I agree. I think a lot of people with this experience that might not have been as prepared are going to this be their learning lesson,
Mm-hmm.
like everybody's hardships in life, that moment, that's a transition period that kind of determines which path you'll end up taking. I think this will be that moment for a lot of people who are have been lucky enough not to be like in some sort of like illness or car crash or some sort of trauma like that. But this is a trauma for a lot of people. And I think this is going to be that learning lesson for a lot of people to use
I
to push
agree.
forward.
I agree.
hmm
A few months ago, actually 2019, summer 2019, I went to an eye doctor, ophthalmologist, to get a eye exam, because a lot of people don't get eye exams because, I don't know, but I read online that you should get an eye exam. So I went to go get an eye exam, and I'm thinking it's like you go to the dentist, everything's all good, fine, whatever. You leave, So I got told that the pressure in my eyes was higher than it should be.
Oh wow!
And this is another thing. A lot of people don't even know about eye pressure, but eye pressure is not like blood pressure. Eye pressure is completely different, and it's silent. Like you can't feel it. You can have extremely high eye pressure and not even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And they dilate your eyes. Have you ever had your eyes dilated before?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you know. So you know that they put that thing and they tell your eye pressure. So the doctor tells me, terrible bedside manner, by the way, this doctor. Oh my goodness. I would never recommend this doctor. But he tells me in like the scariest voice that I need to come back for another appointment because he has to do an ultrasound. And the eye pressure is high and yada, yada, yada. And he long story short, he gave me the idea that I had glaucoma, or I was going to have glaucoma. And glaucoma is actually the silent theft of sight. It can happen to anybody. It's asymptomatic, and one day you just start losing your vision and there's no cure for it.
Mm-hmm.
The next appointment was for 2 months out, so I had to wait 2 months, sick to my stomach, every day, thinking I have glaucoma, reading every article, reading every Reddit post, every YouTube video, trying to figure out, am I going to go blind, basically.
Yeah.
I went back for that second appointment, and I actually told that doctor, I said, I'm freaking out because I think I have glaucoma. And he goes, well, you should be freaking out because it's important. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need a new doctor.
Oh my God.
So long story short, he does the ultrasound and tells me that I'm going to have healthy eyes for the rest of my life. Oh. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you don't know what I went through for the last 2 months. But that day, I have never been so grateful for my sight, because the thought of something like that happening is terrifying, right? So I'm full believer in being grateful and gratitude. Just, if you're in a bad situation, there's somebody out there that has it worse. Mm-hmm. And you have to find the positive in every situation. Be grateful for what you have, and definitely work towards the things that you want, because you can always have more. You can always be more, but be grateful for what you have right here, right now. Yeah, I'm a believer.
Yes, and that actually, if you are grateful for what you have, like when you do put in those efforts to what you want more, maybe that first time you'll fail, but be like, oh, well, I am grateful with what I have right now, so it's okay, but I will still keep pushing forward to make that happen. So I think gratitude really is the root of all movement forward.
Exactly. And I know you're a Gary Vee fan as well, big Gary Vee fan myself, and he always preaches gratitude, right?
Yes.
Gratitude is so
important.
He does.
Gratitude is the attitude.
I love it. I love it. So Alanna, you mentioned in the beginning of this podcast that you're on the board for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
I am.
Can you tell us how that happened, why, and kind of what it's all about?
Yeah. So with my illness, so a lot of people don't recognize or don't realize that Make-A-Wish is for critically ill children. So it's not necessarily kids that are going to for sure die. You just have to have a life-threatening illness. And what I suffered from was a life-threatening illness. And so I got to have a wish granted, and my wish was to shadow Matt Lauer at the Today Show. But for headline news sake, we'll just say I shadowed the Today Show, given what Matt is up to right now. But yeah, so I shadowed the Today Show, and the whole experience really helped me get a glimpse that there is a future beyond my illness. And it kind of sparked that, it made me realize that there is, I can live life and achieve dreams that I do want to achieve. And I obviously got to meet everybody on the Today Show. And it just made such a dark period of my life. It gave such a glimmer of hope in that period. And ever since then, I have been a big advocate for Make-A-Wish. So once I moved back to Cincinnati, and they called me up and said, "Hey, we would love for you to be on the board here." And so I said yes right away, non-hesitation. So I sit on the board for Make-A-Wish, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. And yeah, so we do various luncheons, galas, and I, like meeting with the kids, obviously, we help grant their wishes. And I think because I had a wish granted, because a lot of people on the board are just kind souls that just feel for this organization, but I'm one of the few that has actually been impacted by it firsthand, like to get a wish. So yeah, and that's how I became on the board, and I've emceed like events for them as well. And it's just I just love the organization so much. It makes such a difference to be able to see that future beyond your illness.
Wow, that's incredible, and I'm sure that's something you're really passionate about. You enjoy doing
Yeah.
it, and you went through it yourself, so you can relate.
Mm-hmm.
Relatability is huge, right?
Yeah.
Being able to relate
They
to
can see,
kids.
look, she did it. She's okay now. Like I can make it through this. I can push forward and live a normal life after this illness that I'm facing right now. It's possible. This isn't a death sentence. So I hope to maybe at least impact someone in that manner
Right.
by being on the board. Yeah.
How many wishes do y'all grant every year?
Um, I'm not sure the exact number, but we just had the gala at the beginning of March, right before all of this stay-at-home stuff. And I think that night we raised $380,000 in that night event, and that is enough for 38 wishes right there, because each wish is about $10,000. But it's very sad right now, actually, because with all of these, like the stay-at-home order and the travel restrictions, a lot of kids aren't able to have their wishes granted right now.
Right.
So they're on hold.
That's actually what I was gonna ask next. I'm sure you guys are
Hmm.
being affected, of course.
Yeah.
All the theme parks are closed, sporting
Yeah.
events. Everything is shut
And
down.
Disney's the number one wish, like as everybody probably knows. So
Right.
that's definitely impacted a lot of wishes right now.
So, out of curiosity, when somebody in the program wants to meet like a celebrity or
Hmm.
do something like shadow the Today Show, like who does somebody like just call like that person's agent, or like how do you
It's
connect the dots? Just
it's a
curious.
whole ordeal. Like there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of background info that has to happen. It's a long process. Like it takes months. I think from the time when I applied to when I actually like this is what your wish is. It was at least 4 months.
Wow.
So it's a long process.
Okay.
Hmm.
What's one of your favorite wishes that you've seen granted, other than yours, of course?
Um, I really like the ones like as you mentioned the celebrities when they do something. I know I saw one there was like a Will Smith one a few years back, and he there was a sick child who wasn't was unfortunately, and he did pass away, this child, but he was a huge Will Smith fan, and I believe he actually came and watched his new movie with this child in the hospital. So I love that one. I love
Mm.
to see when celebrities will take time out of their day and give this child like a chance to shine. And there's this boy that I know through Make a Wish here. His name's Evan, and he is confined to a wheelchair with cerebral palsy, and he had a wish to meet Tiki Barber, and he went to watch a game with them, and spent the entire day with Tiki. And then after the game, this is just me trying to remember how Evan told his story. Like after the game, or Tiki went up to Evan and was like, "I just want you to know, like my best part of my weekend was being with you." And it's just so touching to hear these stories and how it impacts these wish kids to push through, and very inspirational to hear that there are kind-hearted people out there that will give the extra time of the day to kids going through the darkest period of their lives.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Love the program. Love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing again. Alanna, switching up gears here a little bit.
Okay.
You are definitely, going to be doing some really big things in the near future. You're super motivated, super positive, enthusiastic, right? I can just tell chatting with you for the last, 45 minutes or so. You're going to go on to do some big things.
Is that for you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. What kind of goals do you have set for yourself, right? Where do you see yourself in the future? What does it look like for you?
Well, I would love to write a book about my experience, and I actually have kind of put that in motion, putting some words to paper already. Just continuing on sharing the message. It's doing more speaking events with people to, show them how truly precious of a of a gift life really is. I wouldn't mind going into life coaching as well. Actually, I think a lot of times people will come to me for advice and for motivation. And once I'm done, they're like, "Whoa, I wish I would have taken notes on that." So, like as you mentioned before, how people like, how do you know if you have your passion or your gifts? And I think also by how others come towards you, like with what they come to you for advice on, can also tell that as well. And I found that a lot of people do come reaching out for, extra pep talks and stuff from me. So I would like to continue on in that space as well, and just enjoy life for the moment as
I
as
love
it's
it.
thrown at me. And also, I'm really big into yoga, so um, I would love to just go to inner city schools, especially with this coronavirus that's come. It's made me realize that a lot of children, they're not given the opportunity to learn yoga and meditation. And I think going to some of these schools just as a volunteer and show them that practice, that's something I'd like to incorporate as well.
So I did yoga once.
Yeah.
So there's this thing called like Class Pass where
Yeah.
you saw. Okay, so you're familiar?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I saw a yoga class on there. I attended. Nicole and my fiance, and yeah. So I literally thought that was gonna be like my last day on Earth.
It's so
It
hard. Yeah,
was.
people don't realize
Yeah.
it.
No, no, no. Like you got to put emphasis on how hard it really is. So it was hot yoga. So first of all, the room was like a
Yes,
freaking
that's the way to do
sauna,
it.
right? Couldn't breathe the second I
Hmm.
walked in the room. And there's this guy next to me. He's doing like handstands, like backflips, doing all this stuff. Mind you, this is supposed to be a beginner class, right? So I'm like, I'm already
Yeah.
getting freaked out. And apparently you're supposed to bring your own mat. I didn't have one. Anyways, long story short, the movements were. My heart's never beat that fast in my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
telling, it was like I was doing like full blown sprint, like cardio. Like you think yoga
It
is like just a little like stretch here, stretch there, but like, this is intense shit here.
it can be very intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But I felt good after. I was sore. Probably couldn't walk for a week, but I definitely
Yeah.
see the benefits to
Yes.
to doing it. And man, some people are just flexible people.
It's amazing. There's no rush. Like once you're done, you kind of have that yoga high, and you're like, ah,
Yeah, yeah.
namaste.
I gotta give it another shot.
Hmm.
Alanna, a lot of the listeners, a lot of the viewers, they're gonna want to connect with you, right? They're gonna want to reach out. Thank you for sharing your story and everything like that. What's the best place that people should reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram at Alanna Martella, and as you mentioned, I just started my YouTube channel, Alanna Martella, on that as well. And I have videos. I kind of add a little humor into my stories and my motivational videos that I make. Just kind of like add a little funny flair to it. So it's pretty cool to do. And my boyfriend Chris, he has a YouTube channel, so he's been helping me through this, and his channel is pretty successful, so he knows the ropes. But and then Twitter at Alanna Martella as
Awesome.
well.
All right. And
Yeah.
we'll link all that in the show notes. Now, Alanna, I ask every guest the same question, and I want to ask you. I ask that you take a few seconds to think about the answer because it might get a little deep.
Okay.
You ready for it?
Hmm.
All right. What is the absolute best piece of advice that you've ever received in your life?
Oh, Oh man. Enjoy life.
Boom. Enjoy life. I love it. Simple, powerful, tons of meaning behind it, right? You got to enjoy life. You have to.
I have to, yeah.
All right. Well, Alanna, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Amazing
so much.
story. Really, really inspiring. And I look forward to seeing, what's next.
Thank you so much. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to see what's next with you and your esports.
Yeah. Hey, you never know.
Yeah.
All right, Alanna. Till next time. Take care.
Yes. You as well.